principles of the desire of the government to stimulate the economy through the involvement and encouragement of the private sector to partake in the development of our basic infrastructure as a nation.
Let's pick up on
These are some of the things that are going on in our effort to reposition the Nigerian railway system.
Let's pick up on the Lagos-Abuja high speed, which you talked about, because that kind of sticks out. What's the current situation? Has the contract been awarded? What's the timeline? What's the thoughts on that one at the moment?
I said we are carrying out feasibility studies. And part of the feasibility studies is that the consultants are going to produce what we call an outline business case, which will show the commercials and the viability of the route. As soon as this is completed, we are going to make it available to the private sector for partnership to develop this very important corridor. So in effect, we hope to conclude this, like I said, by the end of the third quarter of this year. And from the third quarter to the end of the year, we are going to make this available to the public for the prospective investors to go into partnership with us to develop this particular corridor. So we are looking at, in the maximum of 6-7 months from now, the exercise will be completed, and then we shall start the process for the development of this particular corridor. It may take some years before it is achieved. But what is important is the fact that government is determined to really ensure that this is attained. Railway construction is not like any other ordinary construction that you attain it in 1 or 2 days. It takes some time for you to attain that. But because of the level of commitment and the fact that the private sector is going to be involved, we believe that it is going to be done in a very good time.
Well, the way it is, you just painted a picture of the development so far till this moment, and my colleague Chamberlain asked you about the Lagos axis of it. But perhaps you haven't said anything about the rehabilitation of the 2,119-kilometer eastern rail line connecting other parts of the country. Could you tell us what exactly is happening to that particular project?
Well, I have said something about that. I said the rehabilitation is going on. Like I said, the work is divided into 3 loads. The first is Port Harcourt to Makadi, and then the second is Makadi to Kuru, near Jos, and then the third is Kuru to Maiduguri. The work is going on assiduously. Of course, there are a few challenges, but these challenges are surmountable, and they are being addressed very squarely. So our desire and indeed our determination is to make sure that we conclude this rehabilitation by the end of this year, so that the trains will be back on track, as earlier on said.
You know, very soon this administration will be making its 2 years in office. Perhaps you want to tell us some of those challenges concerning this particular one, because Nigerians, especially from that region, would want to know, because we understand it's been given to 3 contractors. So they expect to see a big amount of progress on that particular section. Tell us what kind of challenges. Is it monetary?
Well,
or
you know, for every project execution,
capacity,
there could be 1 or 2 challenges. Even if they are minor, they still remain challenges. For the first lot, for example, the Port Harcourt Makodi portion of the exercise, we have a number of bridges. They have already been constructed. However, there are areas where we have serious gully erosion, like in Aba area, but this is being addressed. We have attained about 55% of that. The contractors are working assiduously to ensure that that portion is completed. The contractors have already imported all the truck materials. They have brought in all the sleepers required for that exercise. They have challenges in accessing the ballast, which is very, very critical for them to start laying the trucks and, of course, the sleepers. Without the ballast, they cannot lay the trucks, they cannot put in the sleepers, because they need the ballast to compact so that we have a complete truck. They have already crushed this ballast at the site. However, there are problems and issues with access to this ballast. But then the matter is being addressed and I assure you that it is going to be resolved as quickly as possible. On the other portions, we have some little security challenges, particularly towards the northeastern part of the country. But again, we believe that as the federal government has double effort in addressing the security challenges, this is going to be over very soon, and the contractors will have access to the area that they don't have access to now to conclude the exercise.
Okay, could you just clarify this for us? Because time and again, we get to hear that the government has awarded contract for high-speed rail line, but there was this one on the 18th of July last year, where the government announced that they had signed a 1.49 billion naira contract with China for the construction of the Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail double track, and some said at the time that it was supposed to be high-speed. What's the situation with this one?
The Lagos-Ibadan portion of the standard gauge line, of course, which you rightly said, has been awarded. The contract has been awarded sometimes late last year. As soon as we are done with issues on the China Exim Bank portion of the funding, the contractors will mobilize to site and commence work very soon. The contract is for $1.49 billion, as you have rightly said. The China Exim Bank is going to provide $1 billion, while the federal government is going to provide the remaining portion of the money involved to carry out that exercise. It is a double track, standard gauge, not necessarily the high speed as in the context of high speed that we know, but it has an average speed of 150 to 170 kilometers per hour when it is eventually constructed. So the project is still on course. Government is still determined to carry it out, but it is going to be done. The commencement of the construction will be effected sometimes in this year.
Okay, Honorable Minister, you've talked about rehabilitation of some of these rails, but let's look at the timelines. What are the timelines of the contracts you've given out? Because there are several sides to transportation. We're just talking rail for now, but what are the timelines for the contracts you've given out now?
Well, I have already explained all the timelines, the expected completion period for the rehabilitation, for example, of the Eastern Line. We've said by the end of this year, we're expecting that all the 3 lots will be completed. And then, of course, for the Lagos-Ibadan, the timeline is going to be 3 years because of the fact that it is going to be double track and it is a standard gauge. And we do hope that as soon as the contractor mobilizes to site, the project will be executed within this span of 3 years.
You know, I wanted to do a follow-up on my question concerning the Eastern Axis. Because perhaps one would have thought that we should have conducted an EIA before going to site, impact assessment, knowing full well that some of those areas are flood prone, and secondly, you would need to blast some special rocks for you to get the lines, the rails laid on that particular portion of the part of the country. Wasn't that done before the contractors went to site? Was it an oversight from the contractors?
No. You know, the Eastern Line is an existing line. So the question of environmental impact assessment does not even arise because you are just rehabilitating an existing line. You carry out an environmental impact assessment when you are putting a new project. This is not a new project. So the question, the issue of the ballast...
It's been abandoned for years, and one would have thought because of the environmental impact on those rail lines, just the way we've seen them in some other places, even the ones you also worked on in Lagos, we saw that they had to rejig and rework on some of these. And they thought that wasn't too good a project for us to spend money on.
For you to carry out the rehabilitation, particularly where you have challenges of gullies, you do not need to go and carry out an environmental impact assessment. All you need to do is to go and take engineering steps to construct culverts and bridges, as the case may be. Like I said, mark you, this is an existing line. You are not putting in any